Hello, today we're gonna be talking about a new data set. We're gonna solve some questions. But what's important to do before answering any data set is obviously understanding what the data set is talking about. Okay, so here we have a new data set and a reference Word file. It has a description of the questions that we're supposed to answer and what are the things that we should know before starting. It gives us a further understanding about the data set that we're gonna interact with. So about the data set, let's zoom in. MLP is composed of 30 teams. So MLB is the league name of baseball. I'm not really sure. I'm not really into baseball. Let's continue. It's composed of 30 teams, 29 in the United States and one in Canada. Teams play 162 games each season, and 5 teams in each league advance to a 4-round postseason tournament that culminates the World Series, a best of 7 championship series between the two league champions that dates to 1903. Baseball broadcasts. Yeah, broadcasts are aired on television, radio, and the internet throughout North America and in several other countries throughout the world. MLB has the highest season attendance of any sports league in the world with more than 73 million spectators in 2015. So this is a link. The data was scrapped from to check the original data. Okay, here we have the objective is use pandas to answer some questions about baseball games in 2016. Here we have the questions. We have 13 questions that we're supposed to answer. Okay, but first let's check our data before we answer the questions. So this is the file that we're gonna be interacting with. So obviously this is a CSV file, but I opened it with the Excel to get a understanding and a bigger grasp of the data before opening it in VS Code using Python, obviously. So here, as we can see, we have an index column. We have the attendance. We have away team. So we have names for the away team. We have away team errors, away team hits, away team runs. We have obviously a date column specifying which date the game took place on. We have the field type, we have name type, game type, so it's either night game, day game, whatever. We have the home team, names of home team, have home team errors, home team hits, home team runs. What else? We have the start time, what time did it start at. We have the venue, where did the match take place in. Day of week, temperature, wind speed, wind direction, sky, total runs, game hours, season. Okay, home team win, home team loss, and home team outcome. So this is the columns and everything that has to do with our data, and this is about it. So let's go and check it on VS Code. So first of all, obviously we need to import pandas, okay, and I imported date time in case of because the data has a date time column or a date column, so I imported it ahead of time to see if we needed it or not. Okay, so this is the name of the CSV file. I read it and I called the head function. And yeah, now we can see what the data is about. Okay, as we saw in the Excel sheet, but we have the first 5 columns. Okay, now so our first question was, what game had the highest attendance in 2016? So first of all, what we need to do is it's asking about the highest attendance. So the columns that we need are attendance, but something we need to obviously make sure of is the date year. We need to know if there are in this data set, if there is more than a year in this data set. So what we need to first do before we check the answer is we need to do this. Give me a second. We need to check if there are any other years. So how do we check this? Is we need to do dt dot year dot unique. Wait, one more. DT can only use DT accessory with datetime like values. So as we can see, the date, we can't use this because the date column is not converted into a datetime. Yeah, it's not converted to a datetime type. Okay, so that's why this function is not working. But I checked the data ahead of time, and for sure no, there is no 2016. There is no other year other than 2016. So there is no need for me to do this. And I just wanted to put this in. I wanted to make sure that you guys think about this before answering this type of question, because it's important. Maybe there's multiple other years that you need to check for and make sure. Okay. So how are we supposed to do this? So what we know is we're supposed to know the highest attendance in 2016. So what we know is 2016 is the only year available in the date column. Okay. So what we need to do is we want the location of the highest attendance in 2016. So what I did is I called our data frame. In case you didn't know, I named the CSV file data frame for short. KDF.location. We're asking for a numeric index. Okay, and I said I want from my data frame the column called attendance. Okay, and I want the ID max. Why I'm calling for ID max? Because I'm asking for an integer location. Okay, for the index, the integer index. So when I run this, it gave us the attendance and all of the other information, because the goal here, it wants the entire game information. Okay, so obviously we need everything else. That's why I did not only call the attendance column, or I didn't only call the number. I called the entire data set, because we want to know the entire information about the game. So yeah, as we can see here, it's done. What was the hottest game of the year? So here we need to check, we need to go back. In every question we need to fall back to our Excel sheet to understand which column we're supposed to interact with. So what was the hottest game of the year? So hottest game, we obviously understand that we're gonna interact with temperature or something. So we need to check the column names. So here we have attendance. We need to check throughout all of them. Okay. Venue, temperature. So we have here temperature, wind speed, direction, and sky. So, and the question is implying the hottest game. So obviously hottest game is gonna be in temperature. So in temperature column. So we used the same method as the first question, but the only difference was we're asking for the highest index for the max. We're asking the index for the max in temperature, and it displayed the entire game information. Okay, and what date and everything else. What was the coldest game of the year? This is the same thing but the opposite. Here it's question 2 was asking for the highest hottest game. Here it's the coldest game. So instead of IDX max, we're gonna use IDX mini. Okay, so in the question number 2, let's check the temperature. The temperature was 101. I'm not really sure if this is degrees or Fahrenheit. But in question 2, but most likely it's Fahrenheit. Okay, so this was the temperature for question 2. Here, to make sure we're correct, temperature here was 31. So it seems that 31 is the lowest or coldest temperature in our dataset, or in the coldest game that was ever played in this That's it. So here we have what was the longest game of the year. So we need to go back, we need to check our column names. So longest game, so something that has to do with time, date, field type, home team errors, home team runs. So start time. So if there was a start time and an end time, maybe we could use we could do it, okay, to get the answer. But we need to check if there is an end time. So venue, day of week, temperature, wind speed, direction, sky, total runs, game hours. So yeah, so let's me check. So there wasn't any end time, okay. They just straight up gave us the game hours. How many hours did it take? So we're gonna be interacting with this column. So I use the same thing, data frame location, data frame game hours, DEC column, and I want the max, and it gave us the game that we're looking for. So the longest game was 6 hours. 6 hours. Question number 5, what was the shortest game of the year? So yeah, in the same column, but we're gonna use IDX minimum. So the longest game was 6.2 hours. The shortest game was 1.25 hours. So there's a big difference between that game and this game. How many games ended in a tie in the 2016 season? So how are we supposed to know this? We have obviously a home team outcome, okay, but the problem as we can see here, we went through the data earlier, there is no away team outcome. So the only thing that we can do is check the home team outcome, because obviously if home team outcome, for example, the first game was a win, the away team outcome will be the opposite. So here, if there was let's pretend there was a away team outcome here. So if here it was a win, here it will be a loss. So we can work around this. So how are we supposed to know this first? Is obviously by checking. uh, Wait. Control Z. Let's put this as a comment and run this cell. So yeah, we called our data frame and we asked for a home team outcome, and we passed the unique method. And here, as you can see, it's there is only two things available. It's either a win or a loss. Okay, so this means there was no ties. So hence, that's why I said print there were no ties in the 2016 season. What was the last game played of the season? Sorry, let me remove this. What was the last game played of the season? So here, what we want is the date. So last game, obviously we need to know what date did it occur at. Okay. So first, we're sorting our data frame. So how are we supposed to answer this? First of all, we need to sort our data frame, and then we want it to be we want the sort to be on the date column, okay, and we want it to be ascending folds. So ascending folds simply, so for example, if I have it as head 5, okay, we will understand this more, or maybe not even a head. Here it shows us let's check the date. So here, for example, the first game, because after we did sort values and ascending folds, so it's gonna be from the latest, from the the furthest date to the latest date. Okay, so here, for example, we have 2016 of November, November 2nd. Year 2016, November 1st, and as so simply it's ascending. Okay, so it's descending. Sorry, the date we made it as descending. So from top to bottom. Okay, and it says we want to know what was the last game. So we only want one. So how we're supposed to do this is we call the head function or method. and it gave us this. So this was the last game played. Another question: what game had the highest attendance? Sorry. So the highest attendance, we obviously know that we want to interact with the attendance column. We call the location function or method, okay, and we ask for the max, and the highest attendance is, as you can see here, this. The lowest attendance, same thing, but we need to replace IDX max with IDX minimum, and it will give us the lowest attendance was 8,766 people. Question number 10: what was the windiest game of the year? So as we saw earlier, we have a wind speed column. Okay, so it's asking for the windiest. So simply we're doing the same thing, data frame location. We're asking for the wind speed column, okay, and we're asking for the ID max. We're asking for the highest يعني how much or how high it was recorded on that day, and we're asking for the index of it. And if we check the wind speed, it was 25, so 25 was the windiest game. Okay. Yes. Question number 11: what game had the most errors? So for this, how we're supposed to do this? Let's check our data. Total runs. So there is nothing that's telling us that there was the total of errors, or showing us the total of errors. So let's see. So here we have away team errors, and here away team errors and home team errors. Let's check if there is total errors. There is no total errors. So how are we supposed to do to answer this question? Is simply by creating a new column called all time errors, and it's equal to away team errors plus home team errors, okay, and then we say data frame locate, okay, and on our new created column, which is all time errors, and we're asking for ID max, and when we scroll down, all time errors is equal to 7, so 7 was the highest errors in every game, or not every game, but this game included the highest errors or the most errors. What game had the most runs? So here we have a column that has total runs in our data, so we are filtering by it, and we're asking for IDX max, and total runs is equal to, let's check, total runs. Where's total runs? Yeah, here. So the highest total runs was 29, as we can see here. Question 13: how many games played by each team are in this data set? So how are we supposed to do this? Simply by getting the away team names and counting them, how many repetitions were there, and adding it to home team value count. So we're counting how many times, for example, Arizona Diamondbacks were counted in away team. For example, let's say they were 60, okay, 61. And for home team, how many times were they repeated? Let's say they were 61 as well. So when we add them together, they're giving us the total, which is 62, and it's done for all of the teams. Thank you. This was how to answer this data set for baseball, for the baseball games in 2016. And yes, thank you, and we're done.